The latest reports show that since October 7th, more than 47,559 Palestinians have been killed, including over 17,672 children. Updated figures also show that over 116,360 people have been injured, with more than 11,160 missing under the rubble. Whilst mediators have finalized a ceasefire deal, Israeli bombardments have continued relentlessly, even after the agreement was approved. This ongoing violence adds to the devastation already inflicted on Gaza, leaving residents struggling to cope amidst the destruction. Displaced Palestinians, like 19-year-old Hussam al-Sharif from Rafah, have expressed cautious optimism about the ceasefire, scheduled to begin on Sunday. Hussam described the unbearable struggles of daily life in Gaza, where even securing necessities like food and water is a constant challenge. His words capture the mood of many in Gaza who long for an end to the violence, even as they grapple with the enormous task of rebuilding their shattered homeland. If implemented successfully, the ceasefire promises to halt 15 months of relentless conflict, facilitate the release of hostages, and allow critical humanitarian aid into Gaza. However, with Israeli strikes still ongoing and millions displaced, the road to recovery remains long and uncertain for the people of Gaza.
We stand for more than 5, 6, or even 7 hours to get 1 kilo of sugar or rice, or even sometimes 2 liters of water. This refers to how miserable our life became of this war. And you still ask me why I am so happy about the ceasefire? Because all of this are going to end. That's why I am so happy. Now, from waking up to the university, I wake up to go bring water, start to go around in the street and that just to find the necessary things for life. With struggling, it's all challenging and it's very hard life. But it's okay, because we are the Palestinians. We know how to handle these things because we've been through this several times. It's not the first time and we hope it will be the last one. Before this genocide started, this place used to label, or people used to label it Block G. This place used to be one of the most beautiful places here in Khan Yunis city. It's, as you can see, it's full of schools, stadiums, clubs, and unfortunately, in this place, there used to be homes and houses. But as you can see, most of them were demolished.
I can announce a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas.
U.S. President Joe Biden, in the final days of his presidency, confirmed the successful negotiation of a ceasefire in Gaza after more than 15 months of bloodshed.
The deal is structured in 3 phases. Phase 1 will last 6 weeks. It includes a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza, and the release of a number of hostages held by Hamas, including women and elderly and the wounded. In exchange, Israel released hundreds of Palestinian prisoners.
The U.S. and fellow mediator Qatar said the ceasefire would take effect on Sunday. It comes after months of on and off negotiations by Egyptian and Qatari mediators, with the backing of the United States. At a news conference in Doha, Qatar's prime minister said the deal includes the release of 33 Israeli hostages, including all women, children, and men over 50 years old. Israel's acceptance of the deal will not be official until it is approved by the country's security cabinet and government. An Israeli official said votes were slated for Thursday. On the streets of Tel Aviv and in Khan Yunis, Israelis and Palestinians both celebrated the news.
We are happy with this victory because the Palestinian people simply want their freedom. Freedom for the Palestinian people. We don't want anything but freedom. and to live with dignity without occupation.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the priority now must be on getting humanitarian aid into Gaza.
The humanitarian situation is at catastrophic levels, and I call on all parties to facilitate the rapid, unhindered and safe humanitarian relief for all civilians in need.
On October 7, 2023, Hamas-led gunmen broke through security barriers and burst into Israeli border area communities, killing 1,200 soldiers and civilians and abducting over 250 foreign and Israeli hostages. In response, Israel's air and ground war in Gaza has since killed over 46,000 people, according to Gaza Health Ministry figures. Despite Wednesday's breakthrough, residents and medics said Israeli airstrikes killed several people Wednesday evening in Gaza, just hours after the ceasefire deal was reached.
Relief was evident across Gaza yesterday as the ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel was announced. But what does the deal really involve, and what are the chances of it being fully implemented? The deal will unfold across 3 phases. The first will see 33 Israeli hostages exchanged for 100 Palestinian prisoners. Palestinians will be able to return to their homes in Gaza. Israeli forces will withdraw from the most densely populated areas in Gaza. This phase will end on the 1st of March. In Phase 2, Israel will make further withdrawals from Gaza and 1,000 Palestinians will be freed in exchange for the remaining Israeli hostages. By 9th of March, Israel should have completed its withdrawal, including from the Philadelphia corridor along the Egyptian border. The third phase is slated to begin on 12th of April. The bodies of the remaining captives should be returned, and an international recovery plan to last from 3 to 5 years is due to start. So, what don't we know? Quite a lot. We don't know if Israel will stick to the deal because it has said that it reserves the right to re-engage its military operations. We don't know the effect of the peace deal on Israeli politics. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may be endangered, and the right-wingers in his cabinet have already said that they reject the ceasefire. We don't know who will run Gaza now. The ceasefire deal says nothing about whether or not Hamas will have a role. The United States is known to favour a new administration modelled on the Palestinian Authority, but this would be hugely controversial among Palestinians in Gaza. And we don't know if the United States will sanction more Israeli annexations in the West Bank, where support for the Palestinian Authority is already at an historic low point. In summary, the ceasefire is fragile. It has been forced on Israel by the United States. It could have been signed when it was first suggested last May, but the US political system was paralysed by the presidential election, and Benjamin Netanyahu exploited that opportunity to continue the war both in Gaza and in Lebanon. Once the US presidential election was over, sufficient pressure could be brought to bear to gain the slender hope of peace. Whether that peace holds remains to be seen.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has delayed a key cabinet meeting meant to approve the ceasefire agreement, blaming Hamas for what he called a last-minute crisis. Netanyahu claims Hamas has backed out of parts of the deal, but Hamas officials insist they are fully committed to the agreement announced by mediators just yesterday. There are also reports of internal tensions within Netanyahu's government. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and his far-right party have threatened to leave the coalition, saying the deal gives too much to Hamas. Smotrich wants assurances that Israel will resume its military operations after the agreement's first phase. Meanwhile, protests outside Netanyahu's office are adding more pressure. Families of Israeli soldiers and supporters are calling on the government to reject the deal, saying it threatens Israel's security. While political debates continue, the suffering in Gaza remains heartbreaking. In just the last 48 hours, Israeli airstrikes have killed 81 people and injured over 200, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. A school sheltering displaced families was also hit, leaving 2 dead and 6 injured. Since October 7th, the death toll in Gaza has reached over 47,559 people, with more than 116,000 injured. These numbers highlight the unimaginable pain and devastation faced by families in the region. The proposed ceasefire deal could provide hope. It includes the release of hostages and Palestinian prisoners, as well as increased humanitarian aid for Gaza. But with political disagreements and ongoing violence, the path to peace remains uncertain.
Concentration of power.
President Joe Biden capped his half-century political career on Wednesday with a final Oval Office speech. In it, he warned of a nascent American oligarchy.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead.
He did not mention names, but Tesla CEO Elon Musk, the world's richest man, has not only amassed vast wealth, but also become a powerful advisor to Donald Trump, who will take over as president from Biden on Monday. Biden then invoked the 1961 farewell address of President Dwight Eisenhower, who had warned of the dangers of a, quote, military-industrial complex gaining power in the country.
6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking.
Biden's comments came after social media company Meta Platforms recently scrapped its U.S. fact-checking program and reduced curbs on discussions around contentious topics such as immigration and gender identity. Critics say the move amounted to bowing to criticism from conservatives like Trump. Biden also warned about the dangers of artificial intelligence and the need to ensure controls on what he called, quote, the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. His foreboding speech comes as his Democratic Party has little leverage in national politics. Meanwhile, Trump has nominated a slate of cabinet members who have pledged to upend traditional American alliances and governing norms. Elon Musk was sued on Tuesday by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The SEC accused the world's richest person of waiting too long to disclose in 2022 he had amassed a large stake in Twitter, the social media company he later bought and renamed X. An SEC rule requires investors to disclose within 10 days when they cross a threshold of owning 5% or more of a company. The agency said that at the expense of unsuspecting investors, Musk instead waited 21 days to disclose his initial purchase of 5% of Twitter's common shares at artificially low prices. The SEC said Twitter's share price then rose more than 27% once Musk disclosed his stake. Tuesday's lawsuit seeks to force Musk to pay a civil fine and give up, quote, unjust profits. Alex Spiro, a lawyer for Musk, called the suit the culmination of the regulator's, quote, multi-year campaign of harassment against his client. He added the lawsuit addresses a mere, quote, alleged administrative failure to file a single form, an offense that, even if proven, carries a nominal penalty. The filing against Musk comes 6 days before Trump's January 20th inauguration, when SEC Chair Gary Gensler will step down. Trump's nomination to succeed him, Paul Atkins, is expected to review many of Gensler's rules and enforcement actions.
UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has signed a historic 100-year partnership treaty with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. As part of this treaty, the UK has pledged £40 million to aid Ukraine's rebuilding efforts. These funds will support green initiatives and provide assistance to women and war veterans, aiming to address the devastating impacts of the ongoing conflict with Russia. Additionally, discussions include the possibility of British troops being part of a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine, should a ceasefire with Russia be reached. Prime Minister Starmer highlighted Britain's unwavering support for Ukraine, condemning Russian aggression and reaffirming the UK's commitment to humanitarian aid. During his visit, he paid tribute to war victims and visited a Kiev hospital, emphasizing the importance of supporting Ukraine in these challenging times. While this partnership signifies solidarity, questions arise about the benefits for Britain. Critics are asking if this £40 million contribution. While this partnership signifies solidarity, questions arise about the benefits for Britain. Critics are asking if this £40 million contribution aligns with the UK's economic priorities, especially amid its ongoing cost of living challenges. Does increased military involvement, including potential troop deployment, risk overstretching the UK's resources? Furthermore, How effective can this partnership be in addressing the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine or pushing towards a resolution to the conflict? With US President-elect Donald Trump preparing to take office, concerns remain about how shifts in American foreign policy could influence Western unity and Ukraine's future.
A Congolese court has sentenced 3 Chinese citizens to 7 years in prison after they were found guilty of illegal activities linked to the artisanal mining sector. A judge in Bukavu found the defendants guilty on Tuesday of money laundering, illegal purchase, and possession of mineral substances, and other charges. They were also ordered to pay a fine equivalent to $600,000 and permanently banned from Congo once their sentences are served. Throughout the trial, the defendants said they had not known they were breaking Congolese law. They were acquitted of charges, including fraud and illegal mineral extraction for lack of evidence. Their lawyers said they would appeal. Christian Wenduma is a lawyer representing local communities.
This is an educational trial that should normally serve as a wake-up call to all Chinese nationals who think they can leave China, arrive in Kitutu, Kibe, Lagushwa, Kamituga, or Mwanga, and behave as if they were in their own room without even paying the hotel fees. And that is what brings us joy.
The trio are the first Chinese nationals to stand trial since Democratic Republic of Congo launched its latest push to crack down on the unlicensed extraction of the minerals in its conflict-torn east.
Just days before the inauguration of US President-elect Donald Trump, who has threatened massive deportations, migrant shelters on the Mexican border say they are not prepared to receive potential deportees. Some authorities have considered the option of setting up a site known as El Punto and a local baseball stadium, with a capacity for 15,000 spectators, as an option for housing deported migrants. Meanwhile, shelters sponsored and managed by civilian migrant support organizations and local churches in northern Mexico expressed their concern regarding the potential wave of mass deportations that Trump has proposed, stating that neither public nor private shelters are prepared or stocked to receive the number of migrants that may arrive. Trump, who is expected to take office in January 20th, has repeatedly accused the Mexican government of not doing enough to stop migrants and has vowed mass deportations that could strain Mexico's job market and spark humanitarian and security challenges in a country already grappling with violence, internal displacement, and sluggish economic growth.
El día 20 va a ser un show para mostrar que tiene poder, que van a deportar. Yo que está guardando a la gente para deportar, pero van a hacer un show por unos días de cuántos la deportación masiva y después tenemos que ver poco a poco qué va a pasar de verdad.
Coordinator of Ciudad Juarez State Population Council, Enrique Serrano Escobar, said Mexican deportees will be provided temporary lodging, food, basic services and transportation to their place of origin in Mexican territory, and ruled out efforts to receive returnees from other countries.
Bueno, el peor de los escenarios sería que fueran grandes grupos de deportados, que fueran de todas las nacionalidades. Eso sería el peor escenario para México, porque no hay esa capacidad para que nuestro país le pueda dar un traslado posterior a esas personas hacia sus países.
Bolivia's former president, Evo Morales, did not attend a hearing on Tuesday in a case of aggravated trafficking of persons lodged against him, citing medical reasons, according to his lawyers. The judge presiding over the hearing confirmed that Morales' defense had presented a medical report alleging he was suffering from several conditions, including bronchopneumonia. The hearing has been postponed and rescheduled for Friday, January 17th, with the defense given a 48-hour window to present medical evidence to substantiate the former president's illness.
Este certificado médico ha sido realizado el 12 de enero de la presente gestión. Por ello, después de un largo debate que se ha dado en audiencia instalada, el suscrito juzgador ha considerado como válido este elemento presentado para justificar su inasistencia, su presencia a esta audiencia, y se ha llegado en todo caso a reprogramar la audiencia de consideración de aplicación de medidas cautelares para dicho ciudadano para fecha viernes 17 de enero
Morales' lawyer said that his client's ill health prevented him from traveling from the central area of the Tropic of Cochabamba to the southern region of Tarija, where the hearing was set to take place.
El expresidente es objeto de un doble proceso penal por el mismo hecho. Las mismas personas. Uno que ya fue rechazado en la ciudad de Yacuiba y se notificó. Y que está en apelación el incidente de nulidad por actividad procesal defectuosa por doble procesamiento.
Tarija prosecutor Sandra Gutierrez warned that if Morales fails to attend his hearing on Friday, he will be declared absent and an arrest warrant will be issued. Morales is under investigation for the crime of aggravated trafficking against a minor with whom he allegedly fathered a child in 2016 during his administration. Meanwhile, the city of La Paz became the stage for protests after police arrested supporters of the former president with dozens of street vendors demanding economic measures from the government. Street vendors marched through the streets shouting slogans such as "Out of Bolivia, incapable government," and demanding a solution to the economic crisis and showing their rejection of merchandise confiscation measures. Bolivian Labour Minister Erland Rodriguez received the sector's list of demands and assured that the government would provide answers.
Primero vamos a poner en situación al presidente, no hemos leído todavía sus peticiones. Una vez que tengamos conocimiento pleno, entonces seguramente vamos a trabajar por mesas y el hermano presidente seguramente convocará pues a los diferentes ministros para que podamos resolver los problemas que pueda tener el acto.
Morales' supporters, who arrived in the city on Monday after marching 100 kilometers from Patacamaya in support of the leader, who also demands economic measures, were met by police near the vice presidential building. At the site, police detained about 50 people, according to Reuters witnesses.